going to jump right into things and ask the question to Kyle, who definitely has a great heartbeat on the hospitality industry. Specifically, Kyle, what are some of the cool tech that you're seeing that is flowing over from the hospitality industry into multifamily, and what value is it bringing?
Yes, that's great. So there's been a pretty strong evolution in technology in hospitality as well as multifamily over recent years. It used to be at some point where hospitality was a step behind when it came to what consumers were doing. I'm sorry, hospitality was a step ahead from where consumers had their homes or their personal lives at. Now hospitality has taken a major step forward in trying to catch up with where consumers are. A lot of what we have seen over recent years have that we start to see shift into multifamily is some things that are very common in hospitality space, which is you walk into an environment, you expect to have Wi-Fi. Bulk Wi-Fi offering in or bulk internet offering in the multifamily space is becoming something that's new. It's almost expected in some environments. And then add on to things like that, like smart room technology, whether it's thermostats, door locks, drapes, all that stuff is very common in some of the luxury or hospitality space. But their evolution from mostly in a bulk offering for managed services is where we tend to see multifamily going first in relation to hospitality. Some of the things that we see coming next are some of your AI features. There's already hotels right now that have delivery bots for your services. There is even virtual check-in features. And that's some of the things that we're doing now in multifamily, where we're giving tools to property managers, to ownership groups on ways to virtually show their apartments, whether that's through a remote key that's being able to monitor through facial recognition, through surveillance, and allowing potential residents or even existing residents to gain entry to a unit. So those are the things I think right now they're really making some of the biggest impact, which is managed in bulk Wi-Fi solutions, as well as some of these virtual features or virtual management features.
So a quick follow-up question, Kyle, particularly as you were talking about that bulk Wi-Fi, what are some of the advantages that an operator can see with having bulk Wi-Fi in those shared spaces?
Great question as well. I think probably the first piece of that puzzle there is really about resident satisfaction. Very often, especially in a consumer environment, it becomes a challenge trying to find which internet providers in the area, negotiating a price point, negotiating a speed. They come in, they put in a modem in each room, they own the infrastructure, they really kind of leave you handcuffed with one solution that you can't really expand on. In a bulk offering, you basically take all of that out of the equation. You bring in a solution for a resident that's going to support a connected application services. Most of the time, residents nowadays are streaming almost 100% of their content. So you need to have a strong, viable connection in place with a provider that, like WCI and Improvix, that can actually manage the start to finish, owns the infrastructure, so that there's one person accountable for it. When you have a resident in a 400 unit apartment complex, each resident just becomes a number with some of these big box stores. When you bulk those solutions and kind of bring them all in as one, you really increase your resident satisfaction, but you also actually have a much higher rate and a much higher rate of success when it comes to supporting said solution. Residents are happy, property owners are happy. They know they can call one person. They're always going to answer their phone or always respond to their email. They're always going to be available for that. The next piece of that puzzle that I think is really important is it's a great revenue generator for a lot of multifamily owners and operators. You can tier your programs. You can provide a free service as part of an amenity and then allow upgrade capabilities for each resident to be able to select higher speeds. And that's, again, another revenue option for that property.
Yeah, if you haven't looked at bulk Wi-Fi, particularly at the pricing, you have the ability to get that at a much lower price per unit than what it is on the market, and have the ability to mark that up and see some revenue on it. So now turning the same question over to Tammy. Tammy, what are some of the cool tech that you've seen coming over from the hospitality industry into multifamily?
So one of the biggest things that I see that's bleeding over from hospitality into the apartment world, into multifamily, is the markets. So having these self-pay markets where you can just go down to the clubhouse and get a soda, get a bag of chips, much like you would in an apart or in a hotel. You can run down. It's not a vending machine. It's an actual little market where they've got toothpaste, they've got toothbrushes, they've got little Advil packets, things like that are absolutely coming over, and I think it's fantastic. They're monitored. You've got your self-pay, you can charge it to your account, just like in a hotel, right? So that's one of the big things that I have seen come across that way. And also, and it's not really, I guess, a thing that has come from the hospitality industry, but maybe we could think of it that way, as the co-work spaces, right? I used to sometimes go to hotels just to have some camaraderie. I work at home. I go there, I sit down, they've got all the plugs I need, they've got the Wi-Fi, and I can sit there and converse with people. So the co-working space and having the availability to print and to photocopy and things like that are absolutely, I think, parallel with it. I'm not sure that it exactly came from it. I think that's another play off of COVID, but I think that's something that I would say bled over as well.
So before we jump over to kind of your thoughts, any follow-ups to what either of them had to say?
Tammy hit the nail on the head when it came to the co-working space, right? There is a layer of human connection that we've all missed.
We were talking about this after breakfast.
Yeah, we were. And having those co-spaces, really keeps that community and keeps that stickiness. I have three others, or well, that's the third, but two others. But I'll pause and see what Dale thinks.
Yeah, a little different tangent as far as the amenities from our properties. Fitness is far and away the #1 request from our residents as far as the amenity that they're looking for on properties. And so with that technology spin on it from a hospitality perspective, #1 is we focus on having our equipment specified by 2 vendors that are pushing the edge of technology. And what I mean by that is they're also having integrated apps that allow you to create specific programs for your fitness. In conjunction with that, it goes beyond just what you're doing in the fitness center. You can track a walk around the multi-use path around the city, or whatever the case may be. Exactly.
Devices.
And then another layer on top of that would be group activities. So, are you going to be working out within, you're going to have a little challenge with your friends or whatever the case may be. So it really becomes taking just sort of the old way of fitness of, hey, I've given you X amount of square footage per bed, and layering in how you can immerse the resident in the space.
I imagine you run into challenges with some of those vendors. I know when I go into the hotel space, you see over the years, which power adapter do they have for your device? And then it went from the old ones, the newer ones, and now that one's outdated. Are you finding that the vendors are making them so they're more modular to be able to update just that component, or being more willing to be able to swap out when the newer technology arrives?
I mean, luckily, we've been able to work with certain vendors who are on the cutting edge of technology. I mean, with one of the vendors, they've supplied the fitness equipment for the last 9 Olympics. We're pushing the envelope in terms of what we're going to provide on our properties. And so we've set a baseline of this is what our expectations are. And you need to, if you can provide what will fit into that box.
And do you lease those machines, or do you buy them outright?
We'll purchase those.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
I mean, we're long-term hold, so it's a little different.
Yeah.
It's a little different creature, yeah.
Okay. So what were some of the things you were seeing coming over from a hospitality space?
Yeah, so growing popularity in shared spaces is #1, what Tammy mentioned, those, co-offices or office workspace within the leasing center, if we're even calling that anymore, right? Where it can be rented. Think about a sick child coming home and you have another care provider and they're just screaming in the background and you got to get out of the apartment. Gone are the days of going to find an office space, leaving your home and finding parking and running to that next meeting. Now you can just go downstairs and rent it for a couple of hours or even the full day and make that your temporary office. Of course, you get kickbacks on that, right? Some transactional revenue from the resident renting that space. Another one that we're seeing is very plainly put, but shared use spaces. Think of community gardens or club room, media rooms, even mental health spaces where you can just go in and have a Zen moment, right? You talked about fitness. Group settings where you can go on an app and say, anybody have what is that new one where they have the mirror on the wall and it's like an instructor speaking to you? God, I can't remember the name. It's just literally exited my head.
Mirror.
The mirror, yes. So having that app and being able to have a group setting and renting out the fitness center with just your select group, so there's nobody coming in taking the equipment that you need for that exercise. So all of those shared use spaces are really growing in popularity. And then the last one is co-op living spaces. So think community centers like gatherings where it's a huge area, massive kitchen. You want to entertain, but you only have an 800 square foot home. You have a massive family and you want them to come and join you at your community center. One of my personal favorites, because I'm a young mother of two, is built-in playrooms within the centers, within the communities. Having social events that you have organized to then say, hey, let your kids play. We'll be right over here having cocktails and barbecue, right? So think about those co-op living spaces as well, because there's a huge growth happening in Canada right now, and it's only a matter of time before US really starts picking up on that.
We had our summit in the fall in Phoenix, downtown in the convention center. And one of our hosted guests had a property that was 2 blocks away that was relatively new and was focused primarily at young working professionals in downtown Phoenix. And they had a whole floor dedicated to co-working space that was just part of the membership. And their vision was having multiple properties in major cities and really designing these in a way where the young professional can easily move their lease from property to property, because a lot of these young professionals are working online now, and that everything they need is self-contained in that facility. And if they want to spend 3 months in Phoenix and then 3 months in Nashville and 3 months in Miami, that they can kind of move that membership around and have pretty much the same facilities in each.
That seems very much like hotels.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And even take a step
They're
behind.
fully furnished, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fully furnished. And on top of that, because they're fully furnished, and some of these working professionals aren't work from home, but are like consultants that are traveling Monday through Friday, they're able to offer a service to their residents to be able, and this is going beyond shared spaces, but just popped to mind, so let's talk about it. They make it really easy for their residents to be able to rent out their room, kind of Airbnb style, and they, as the property owners, will provide the cleaning services, and so they'll extract a little bit of cut from that additional revenue coming in. It's really interesting stuff. Okay, so looking at student, if we were to put these on a map, I can see that traditional multifamily and hospitality, that student housing is kind of right in the middle. You kind of straddle that in the sense that you have a little bit more control over the facility, the property, setting some of the rules. Is there anything else beyond the gyms that you find is some really good technology that has already entered into your space that is now perhaps starting to bleed over into multifamily?
I think I wanted to get one more point across on the fitness is there's another layer of, and I've heard the term come up at various discussions, is the whole idea of wellness. And so that's another programmatic element that we're introducing into our fitness centers as an adjacent program element. And so that can, in various properties, that takes on sort of a spa jewel box that's attached to our fitness, where there's a sauna, there's an aqua massage, and you get that experience that's kind of more luxe, if you will.
Yeah.
And so that's just another way for us to continue pushing the envelope in that perspective.
I love that. I live there.
I was going to say, yeah, it's students.